Pesach Shalom. Normally, the support for Yeshua being the son of David comes from the genealogies provided by Matthew and Luke. In this study, though, I'm going to be showing that Yeshua is the son of David without using these. I am super excited about this one, so let's dive into it. I want to start Hebrews chapter 10, verse 5. It says, "Wherefore when he cometh into the world, he saith, Sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me." So I wondered about this particular verse for the longest time, because even though I know that I am the being that is within my body, I mostly identify with my body, my face. This is mine. But here it is saying that Yeshua sees his body as something that was prepared for him. And although I do not give credence to the book of Hebrews, this verse ended up being a key for me in this study. This verse is actually quoting Psalms chapter 40. Verse 6 says, "Sacrifice and offering thou didst not desire. Mine ears hast thou opened. Burnt offering and sin offering hast thou not required." So in this translation, which is based off the Masoretic text, it says, "Mine ears hast thou opened." But if we go into the translations, if we look at the Brenton Septuagint translation, it says, "Sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me." And this is what the author of Hebrews is quoting from. So from here, let's get into the meat and bones of this study. In 2 Samuel 12, after David has committed adultery with Bathsheba and set Uriah up, Nathan the prophet comes to him with a parable. So let's look at David's response beginning in verse 5. "And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, As Yahuwah lives, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, Thou art the man. Thus saith Yahuwah God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Yahuwah to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife." So David has now condemned himself to death and a fourfold restoration of what he has done. Let's look at the effect of David's word. Leviticus 27 verse 28 says, "Notwithstanding, no devoted thing that a man shall devote unto Yahuwah of all that he has, both of man and beast, and of the field of his possession, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy unto Yahuwah. None devoted, which shall be devoted of men, shall be redeemed." So David has now effectually, in his response to Nathan's parable, devoted himself to death without a means for redemption. But what is God's response to this? Back to 2 Samuel 12, verse 13. "And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahuwah. And Nathan said unto David, Yahuwah also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die." So where David through his word has condemned himself to death without means for redemption, God through his word redeems David by saying that he has put away his sin and that he will not die. Let's look at the Hebrew word translated put away. The word is abar, to pass over, through, or by, pass on. So God has passed over David's sin. To confirm that, let's look at the uses of this word. We see that this word is used in Exodus 12. Verse 23, "For Yahuwah will pass over to strike Egypt, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, Yahuwah will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you." So this word abar that Yahuwah uses in reference to David's sin is the same word that he used to reference the sin of Egypt. But the blood on the lintel and the two doorposts is what causes Yahuwah to pass over the houses of Israel without allowing the destroyer to come into them. And this word is pasak, also meaning to pass or spring over. So where is David's pasak? 2 Samuel 12, verse 14. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of Yahuwah to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. Verse 15. And Nathan departed unto his house, and Yahuwah struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. So Nathan goes to the safety of his house, and Yahuwah passes over David's house, just as he passed over Egypt. And he then strikes the firstborn son of David and Bathsheba. This word struck is the same word we just saw in Exodus 12:23, where he says that he would smite the Egyptians. So Yahuwah has now passed over David's sin and smitten his firstborn, just as Yahuwah passed over Egypt's sin and smote their firstborn. So the child that David conceived with Bathsheba in his sin becomes David's Passover. Next it says the child was very sick. So whereas the firstborn of Egypt died immediately, the firstborn of David becomes sick. Let's look at this word sick. This word is anash, meaning to be weak or sick. And the Hebrew word anash comprises 3 letters, aleph, nun, and shin. This is Strong's Hebrew 605. And if we move over to Strong's Hebrew 606, we come to the Aramaic word enash, comprising the same 3 letters, aleph, nun, and shin. This word means man or mankind. If we go to the uses of this word, we see that it is used in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. It says, I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and coming to the Ancient of Days, he came, and they brought him near before him. So this one like the Son of Man that Daniel sees is Bar Enosh, the son of Enosh. And this Aramaic word Enosh directly corresponds to the Hebrew word Enosh, also meaning man or mankind. And the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance says this word Enosh, meaning mankind, is from Anash, meaning to be weak or sick. So we have now linked the Aramaic word Enosh for Son of Man, which is the title that Yeshua most frequently referred to himself as, to Enosh, which is the Hebrew word for mankind, derived from Anash, meaning to be weak or sick, all to this firstborn son of David, who Yahuwah passed over and struck to be very sick. Verse 16, David therefore besought for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not. Neither did he eat bread with them. Let's go to Psalm 51. Verse 1, a psalm of David, when Nathan the prophet came unto him, after he had gone into Bathsheba. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. So in this part of the prayer, David is confessing his sin to God and asking to be forgiven. Verse 16, for thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. Do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion. Build thou the walls of Jerusalem. Then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar. Now here, David seems to be subtly reminding God of the covenant he made that his son would build him a house, because he is talking about sacrifices and building Jerusalem, the holy city. And we see that David later promises Bathsheba her son will be heir to the throne when Adonijah tries to usurp the throne. So it may be that David is pleading on behalf of his son here, and Bathsheba also, who he drug into this mess and who God completely absolved of all wrongdoing in the parable, which I will be addressing in another study. So now we get some insight into the prayer and the fasting and what was happening with David. So let's go back to 2 Samuel 12, verse 18. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child is dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, changed his apparel, and came into the house of Yeshua, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. So after David seemingly unsuccessfully fasts and pleads for this child for 7 days, he dies on the 7th day. And afterward, cleans himself up, goes to the house of Yeshua. When he returns from Yahuwah's house, he had them set bread before him. He eats. If we skip to verse 24, it says, And David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went in unto her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, and Yahuwah loved him. So after David comes from the house of Yahuwah, he comforts Bathsheba. What could David possibly have heard at the house of Yahuwah? How did Yahuwah respond to David's cry? Let's go to Psalm chapter 2. I will declare the decree. Yahuwah hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Now verse 8 brings back Yahuwah's response to David for taking Bathsheba from Uriah. Let's go back to 2 Samuel 12. Verse 8 says, And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. These are very similar promises. So back to verse 7. When is it that Yahuwah said unto David, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee? Isaiah 53, verse 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Verse 10. Yet it pleased Yahuwah to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days. And the pleasure of Yahuwah shall prosper in his hand. So the day that David's firstborn son was made the offering for his sin is the same day that Yahuwah said to David, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Making his firstborn son of David and Bathsheba both the root and the offspring of David. So let's go to Psalm 89. Verse 3, I have made a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn unto David my servant. Thy seed will I establish forever, and build up thy throne to all generations. Verse 19, Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and said, I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people. I have found David my servant. With my holy oil have I anointed him. Verse 26, He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. Also I will make him my firstborn, higher than the kings of the earth. So this establishes David's throne and establishes David as the firstborn. Let's look at verse 23. And I will beat down his foes before his face and plague them that hate him. This is very similar to another covenant that God gave. Let's go to Psalm 110, verse 1. Yahuwah said unto Adonai, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth. Yahuwah has sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. Here we have Yahuwah making a covenant with the Adonai of David. So let's go to Genesis 14. Verse 18 says, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. This is the only detail that we get about Melchizedek. And what we learn about him here is that he is the king of Salem and priest of the Most High God. So he is a king and a priest. He also blesses Abraham and blesses God and receives tithes of Abraham. So these are components of the covenant that God has made with Adonai. So let's go back to 2 Samuel. Verse 18, it says, and it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. So what would have happened the 8th day? Genesis 17, verse 9. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep, between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. So if the child had made it to 8 days old, he would have been circumcised, which would have brought him under the covenant of Abraham, giving him rights to the land. So what would have happened if he had made it to a month old? Exodus 13, verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, is mine. And what does he do with these firstborn? Let's go to Numbers chapter 3, verse 11. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, and I, behold, I have taken the Levite from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast, mine shall they be. I am Yahuwah. During the Passover, Yahuwah claimed the firstborn of every woman of Israel to be priest to him, but he makes a trade and takes the Levites instead of the firstborn, so that the Levites become the priests rather than all the firstborn of Israel. So how is this trade made? Verse 40. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, number all the firstborn of the males of the children of Israel from a month old and upward, and take the number of their name. And thou shalt take the Levites for me, I am Yahuwah, instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of all the firstlings among the cattle of the children of Israel. 46. And for those that are to be redeemed of the 213 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, which are more than the Levites, thou shalt even take 5 shekels apiece by the poll. After the shekel of the sanctuary shalt thou take them. The shekel is 20 gerahs. And thou shalt give the money, wherewith the odd number of them is to be redeemed, unto Aaron and to his sons. So because this child didn't make it to a month, he was not redeemed. That means that he has no priest that has been substituted for him, making him a priest. So let's look at the duties of the priest in Numbers 18. Verse 1. And Yahuwah said unto Aaron, thou and thy sons and thy father's house shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood. Verse 14, everything devoted in Israel shall be thine. Everything that openeth the matrix and all flesh, which they bring unto Yahuwah, whether it be of men or beasts, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shalt thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts shalt thou redeem. So again, this reiterates that the firstborn is to be redeemed. But this firstborn was not redeemed because he didn't make it to a month old. So for all intents and purposes, he belongs to Aaron, confirming again that he would be a priest. Verse 20, and Yahuwah spake unto Aaron, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance among the children of Israel. So this baby, he's uncircumcised, which means that he didn't come under the covenant of Abraham, which is for the land of Israel, confirming that he has no inheritance among the children of Israel, and that he bears the iniquity of the sanctuary as a priest under the covenant of Aaron. So now we have this child who, as the Son of Man, was stricken for the sin of David, being heir to the throne as the son of David, and being a priest under the covenant of Aaron, since he was uncircumcised and unredeemed. So if he were to somehow find himself back on the earth, that would be David, Aaron, and the covenant of Melchizedek all fulfilled. So now let's go to the virgin birth. Luke chapter 1, verse 26. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And the angel came in unto her and said, Hail, highly favored, Yahuwah is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yeshua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest. And Yahuwah Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man? And the angel answered and said unto her, The Holy Spirit shall come upon thee, and the power of the highest shall overshadow thee. Therefore also that holy thing which shall be born of thee shall be called the Son of God. So while Luke says Yeshua is the son of David, his emphasis is on Yeshua being the Son of God. Now, a consideration for you. If a virgin gave birth today, would that be considered a miracle? Especially considering what we have just seen. Yeshua already had 2 earthly parents, Bathsheba and David. Is it not possible for a virgin to give birth today to someone else's child? Of course it is. This method is called surrogacy. And if man can do this now, why would you think that God didn't already do it first? After all, mankind has been trying to become and replace God since forever. But what man cannot do is reform a body that has already lived for 7 days in the womb a second time. But if my analysis is correct, that is exactly what God did. In fact, I think he even foretold it in the sign of Joshua's long day, when the sun stood still for about a day, and in the sign of Hezekiah, where the sun went backwards 10 steps. I believe that these 2 signs foretold of Yeshua's birth and subsequent rebirth. So let's look at Luke chapter 2, verse 21. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child, his name was called Yeshua, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her purification, according to the law of Moses, were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to Yahuwah. As it is written in the law of Yahuwah, every male that opens the womb shall be called holy to Yahuwah. So now we have the circumcision, which fulfills the covenant of Abraham, and we have the redemption, which excuses him from working in the temple and gives him back the land. So in this second coming of Yeshua, he fulfills the covenant of Abraham. So from here, I want to look at the genealogies. In Luke 3, verse 23, and Yeshua himself began to be about 30 years of age, being as was supposed the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli. Skip down to 38, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. This is the point of Luke's genealogy, to tell you that Yeshua was the son of God. So why did Luke point out that Yeshua was 30 years old? Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 1. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, thou was he that led out and brought in Israel. And Yahuwah said to thee, Thou shalt feed my people Israel, and thou shalt be a captain over Israel. So all the elders of Israel came to the king to Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before Yahuwah. And they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. Yeshua comes to receive to himself a kingdom at the same age that David received the kingdom. But where David reigned for 40 years, Yeshua did not reign completely over all Israel for the subsequent 40 years. So next I want to look at Numbers chapter 4, verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, Take the sum of the sons of Kohath from among the sons of Levi after their families, by the house of their fathers, from 30 years old and upward, even until 50 years old, all that enter into the host to do the work in the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 21. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Take also the sum of the sons of Gershon throughout the houses of their fathers, by their families, from 30 years old and upward until 50 years old shalt thou number them, all that enter in to perform the service, to do the work in the tabernacle of the congregation. 29. As for the sons of Merari, thou shalt number them after their families, by the house of their fathers, from 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, shalt thou number them, every one that entereth into the service, to do the work of the tabernacle of the congregation. So we see that the priests begin to serve when they are 30 years old. Let's go back to Luke. In chapter 3, verse 21, now when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Yeshua also, being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And a voice came from heaven, which said, Thou art my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased. Now Yeshua was baptized by John, who was clearly God's anointed high priest, into the priesthood. So all the pieces of this puzzle are now coming together, where Yeshua fulfilled the covenants of David and Aaron when he was born to David and Bathsheba. He now is coming to walk in those covenants after being born again to Mary. Let's go to Luke 4, verse 16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it is written, The Spirit of Yahuwah is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of Yahuwah. So he preaches the gospel to the poor, and on the other side, he preaches repentance. Because as I show in my study of the new covenant of Israel, repentance is the condition of that covenant. So Yeshua goes on to renew the covenant of Israel with those who heed his instruction. So let's look at Matthew's genealogy, the book of the generation of Yeshua Mashiach, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So Matthew's genealogy, the emphasis is Yeshua being the son of Abraham. The genealogy begins, Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob. Whereas Luke's genealogy ends with Adam being the son of God. So where Luke showed that Yeshua fulfilled the covenant of Abraham, Matthew, through this genealogy, also emphasizes Yeshua fulfilling the covenant of Abraham, but he does it through the genealogy, showing that Yeshua was a descendant of Abraham. And I believe that he does that through Mary. So from this perspective, neither of these genealogies really seek to prove that Yeshua is the son of David. That genealogy was given to you already in the scriptures. So now, I do not believe that Yeshua experienced separation from his father after he died at 7 days old. I believe he died and immediately returned to the Father. If we go to John 3:13, Yeshua says, "No man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, the Son of Man, which is in heaven." So when did Yeshua ascend to heaven? On the 7th day after he died. So he only truly experienced the separation from God once after the crucifixion. And I believe this is the cup he prayed to be taken in Gethsemane, rather than the physical aspect of the crucifixion. I also am not suggesting reincarnation for us, but I do believe that this is what God decided to do with his only begotten son. So all of this amounts to a beautiful, wonderful, amazing, and mind-blowing story of the redemption of God through his son, Yeshua. So thank you for joining me. Feel free to drop any comments, concerns, agreements, or disagreements in the comment section below. I hope this study has blessed you and inspired you to search further into Yah's word. May Yahuwah bless you and keep you. May Yahuwah shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.